So Tom the nutritionist here, and I'm with Dr. Rodney Dietert from Cornell University, professor of immunotoxicology. And I'll tell you what, Dr. Dietert has an incredible story to tell us, in that he was asked to look for the one single thing that might modify someone's course of disease for their entire lifetime, and he came up with an interesting storyline. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
I sure can. I was given this challenge for a journal called Entropy to come up with the single measure or sign that you could determine that would help provide information on a life course filled with health or filled with disease. And I started to write on the topic. I wasn't very happy with what I had been writing. Went to sleep that night and woke up from a dream in the middle of the night with a fully formed concept that the single most useful thing we could measure is what we came to call the completed self. And I co-authored this paper with my wife Janice based on the completed self, and that is at birth the newborn being able to acquire the microbial components that are going to go into the gut, the respiratory system, the urogenital tract, and form what is really 90% by cell numbers of the human microbial superorganism. And upon forming this new superorganism that's a combination of the mammalian part of humans and the microbial component, you then have a better chance, essentially, at a life course that is going to be healthier. And that being able to accomplish that is exceedingly important. So measuring the success at completing the self would be the single sign that we came up with. And this has proven to generate a considerable amount of interest, because we now know that the microbiome is extremely important and that deficiencies in the microbiome can contribute to non-communicable diseases in particular, and that these can play out or occur across a lifespan. So that what happens with birth, such as vaginal delivery versus cesarean delivery, and then what happens in terms of infant feeding, is extremely important in determining the ability to form the completed self. So that's basically the background behind it. It was a concept I got in the middle of the night, fully formed, but one that seems to be useful because it really is important in projecting what's going to happen in terms of that infant as the infant matures. I should say that my background is with the developing immune system, and we now know that the microbial component of the gut interacts exquisitely with the immune system as it develops, and they co-mature together. So any problems that arise with the immune system or with the microbial components in the gut are going to influence the other player in that, and you're going to have problems with maturation. So problems with the microbiota in the gut lead to problems with the immune system, and that again can contribute to a lot of the chronic or non-communicable diseases that we see that are increasing in prevalence around the world.
So if I could back this up for people a little bit, and I could say, all right, you're brewing in your mother's belly. In the third trimester, the mother is going to be producing a whole different strain of organisms in her distal colon. Some of those will migrate over into the vaginal canal. At the birthing process itself, the head will push against the cecal area, freeing some of that content, as if nature's intending for the child to be inoculated with these organisms in that area. And then after that time, the child will be breastfeeding, hopefully, and there is a particular component in the breast milk called human milk oligosaccharides that are specifically designed to be digested by organisms that are not the baby. They're there for the bifidobacterium, the infantis variety, and that particular organism will communicate with the immune cells and dampen down excessive responses, will protect that immune system from too much pathogenic exposure. It'll eloquently basically train the infantile immune system to not be over-responsive to things like foods or pet dander, and at the same time tell the immune system exactly how to respond to things like viruses and whatnot. Is that correct? So we're having this correspondence, this relationship where we're being trained by the organism?
Absolutely. The microbiota, the bacterial components in the gut, are essentially helping the immune system to learn what is the completed self, what is self, and what is the environment. And it provides a seamless connection between us as a superorganism and our environment. In the absence of that, the immune system's rather unsure, and the immune system is predisposed then, lacking the maturity it needs, to respond inappropriately, in a prolonged way, in the wrong places, and in the wrong manner to signals that are not really dangerous for us. And that's how you get allergic disease, you get autoimmune conditions, inflammatory conditions in tissues, which are really one of the big outpicturing of a dysfunctional microbiota. And so when we lack diversity following birth, because we've had cesarean section, because of problems that the mother may have had in pregnancy, or because prolonged breastfeeding was not an option, then that's going to essentially have effects on the maturation of the immune system, and the immune system is not going to have an interaction with the environment that's the same as one would have in the completed self infant. So that's one of the reasons it's really important to get it right, and to get it right at birth and shortly thereafter, because those are the windows that seem to be the most critical in determining what happens later with immune function for health versus disease.
That makes sense. You know, we're seeing a drastic rise in gluten, dairy sensitivities, food sensitivities across the board. So one of the most effective things in clinical practice for me is putting people on elimination type diets, because their immune cells are responding to the particular foods. And it would make sense that if the bacterium were there in the beginning, the immune system was calm, less and less people would be responding to what they are today. We'd probably have less obesity, diabetes, we'd have less thyroid, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, because of the immune cells knowing when to attack and not to attack. Are there any things that people can do once the immune system is out of balance? Can we reestablish the microbial environment? Can we lessen toxic exposure? Can we rid ourselves of foods that our body react to negatively? What are the things we can do after the fact?
Well, there's no question that when it's possible, getting it right in that narrow window is the best. Yeah. Because that again is going to have the immune system fully matured, functioning well, not overreacting inappropriately in tissues. But after the fact, there are certainly things you can do that are helpful. So as you mentioned, avoiding triggers that are going to cause inflammatory responses in tissues that are inappropriate, that's extremely useful. In addition, the possibility of populating mucosal tissues, the gut, the lung, and the like, with the bacteria species that should be there is very helpful. The limitation may be that you've missed the immune maturation window. Yes. So those are beneficial, but there are going to be limits to the benefits as well. And we're only now recognizing the extent of the limitations. So those are very helpful. But again, they're not as effective, it seems, as getting it right at birth and shortly thereafter. So I think management of the microbiome during pregnancy. So for OBGYNs, that's an opportunity. Management of the microbiome at birth and shortly thereafter by the pediatrician, that's an opportunity to really reduce the risk of non-communicable diseases. And these are the #1 killer in the world and are essentially costing us at a level that is not sustainable in the future. So we need to do something, and those are our major opportunities for improved health and reduced risk of NCDs.
So I'm hearing then natural birth. I'm hearing then, so not electing C-section. I'm hearing then breastfeeding would be phenomenal. And I'm hearing being conscious of the microbiome in the birthing process and thereafter. So I'm hearing perhaps the strep B positive with the antibiotic use might be far more damaging to a developing immune system than we would imagine. So maybe in the future, calculating that into the risk, I would say, algorithm of the strep B might be something people would consider, because it shifts the immune system for the entire life of the individual. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things that we haven't done, because the importance of the microbiome is only been emerging really in the last few years, is that we don't use drug treatments with effective knowledge of the downside. We understand the benefits of antibiotics. We haven't appreciated the risk that's presented by destroying commensal bacteria and not dealing with that or knowing how to deal with it. We also, in terms of nutrition and feeding and diet selection and the like, have not appreciated that we're feeding a superorganism. We're feeding a majority microbial organism when we feed humans, when we feed our babies. And that's different than our understanding of simply providing nutrients to mammalian cells.
Right.
Actually, a lot of animal agriculture probably understands this better. Poultry feeding, gut microflora. But we need to start applying information that we can obtain on what's optimum for our microbial component and using that. Because those are major metabolizers in us. They essentially are both protecting us from toxins and in some cases using the food that we intake or pollutants that we encounter and generating toxins and causing problems. So they're the frontline defense. They're where we get exposed to our dietary components, to environmental pollutants, and to drugs. And the way that they metabolize those and then expose the whole organism to the byproducts is really important. So that's an opportunity again, but we have to appreciate we should have drug therapies that are based on knowing benefit risk for the microbial component, and we should have diets that do the same.
Wow. So what I'm hearing is there is truth to the statement the immune system is no longer called the immune system, it's called the microbial interaction system, and that we can be proactive. As practitioners, we can recommend diets that will benefit the microbes. We can recommend birthing processes that can benefit the microbes and medication processes that can benefit the microbes, because in essence, what benefits the microbes benefits us. So perhaps we need to be a little bit more respectful, a little bit more mindful, and as a result, we can complete our health in the long term here on this planet. So thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.